Hey guys, I know everyone has like weird body things. I'm no different. So growing up my whole life, I've had this thing called irritable bowel syndrome. So it's not an uncommon thing, but it's normally called IBS, and it's just it's something that is just normal to me. But oftentimes, someone with IBS. Diarrhea is kind of just like a way of life, and for me that was just normal. That's just how things were. That's just how life was. So it's not like I felt like this was an awful thing or anything like that. It's fine. I've dealt with it, but I didn't realize that everyone isn't like this. If someone else says, "Oh, I think I have to poop," what that normally means is like I'm gonna have to like poop in the next half hour or so. It's coming. It's on its way. It'll arrive soon. If someone with IBS says, I have to poop, that should be followed by now. It's not like I have to poop in the near future. It's like, it's here, I'm about to go, where can I put it? For my fellow IBSers, that's what life is. Life is needing to be within 20 seconds of a toilet at all times. Maybe not that extreme, but like I said, it's not really ever been a problem in my life, but it can be when you have issues also in that general area. So a few years ago, I was having some irritation around my butthole, and at first I didn't really think much of it. I'm like, it's probably just some irritation, it'll go away soon. But then it kind of got worse. The first doctor I went to thought I was like, maybe like hemorrhoids or something like that. He gave me like a cream to put on and stuff. I ended up going to see a different doctor, and long story short, they finally figured out what was going on. And when they told me the name of it, I was like, come on, like, how is this the name that you're giving? At least with IBS, they figured out a way to name it a thing that, while it's kind of like this, diarrhea pooping thing, the name itself is not that incendiary. It's like IBS or irritable bowel syndrome. So yeah, it relates to the bowels. They get irritated. Maybe you go a little bit more frequently, but it's kind of like a name that you're not embarrassed to say all the time, whatever. If they had named it like, I have EDS, it's called explosive diarrhea syndrome. It just means that every so often, 2 to 3 times a day, I have explosive diarrhea all over the place. You'll be able to hear me in all corners of the office. Don't worry about it, though. It's a common thing. Other people have it too. Yeah, it's not named explosive diarrhea. However, this thing that I had, basically what it is, it's like a little infection you get right around your hole, and it's called an anal fistula. Yes, an anal fistula. Now, how am I supposed to bring this up in normal everyday conversation? Like hemorrhoids? It's like, okay, well, you have hemorrhoids, it's a thing, and I kind of know what it is, kind of gross, but whatever, it's just hemorrhoids. It's not that like crazy, but it's like, oh, what's wrong? I got an anal fistula. A what? An anal fistula. How'd you get that? I don't want to talk about it. Whatever, they were able to fix it, and it did require like minor surgery, and it wasn't very comfortable. It was pretty painful for a little while. But while it's kind of like in that healing process, there can be some like bleeding and stuff while it's still healing up, and you don't really want things to stay too moist down there, because then different parts of your body rub together that aren't normally rubbing like that, and it just becomes very uncomfortable, to say the least. So, but the doctor told me, at one point that, for a couple weeks, it's probably a little bit better if you wear some like feminine hygiene products, like those pads that you wear on your underwear and stuff. And I don't really have much experience with them. My wife knows all about them and is familiar with them. So I was in the store with my wife, who at the time was very pregnant, and we're walking down the feminine hygiene aisle and looking at all the products, and we're trying to pick something, and I don't really know what I'm looking for. I told her what the doctor told me, and she's like, all right, well, we probably need to get like these ones. These will probably be fine. And so I'm like walking up to the register. I have these like big box pads, and with my very pregnant wife, and I'm just hoping they don't put 2 and 2 together. Like, she's pregnant. I don't think she needs these. So I guess you do. There was some prescription, unrelated, but there was some prescription that I had to pick up. It was a relatively regular thing. I have to get like every 3 months or something like that. And so I went to the store and I was picking it up. And this was the first time I picked up that medication at this store. And so I went to pick up the medication, and the person at the pharmacy kind of looked at me when I went to pick it up, and she's like, "Oh, this says that's $180. Does that sound right to you?" Now, normally this thing is like 10-ish bucks whenever I pick it up. So I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. It's never been that much before. It's the same thing, right? And she's like, oh, it's the same thing as last time. Let me look at the system. And so she's clicking around on the computer, and she looks a little bit closer, and she's like, oh, I see here that they attached a coupon to this order. So let me try that. And so she's clicking around for a little bit, and eventually she looks at the computer and she's, oh, okay, it applied, and it looks like it's actually going to be around $9. Does that sound right? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like what it normally is. And then so she goes to get my prescription, grab it for me, and I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, what kind of coupon do they have attached to that account? That's a great coupon. You guys got that for like anything else in the store? It's like a 95% off coupon. Have you guys ever seen a 95% off coupon? Just wish I could apply it to more parts of my life. My previous trip to the doctor, told me they did blood work and stuff. They're like, you know what, you should probably lay off a little dairy a little bit, back off that. I guess it's higher in fat. Or I don't know what it is. Basically, dairy can, I should kind of have less dairy in my life. And dairy is a big part of my life, so that's a difficult thing to ask me to do. But my birthday was also coming up, and I'm a big fan of ice cream cake. And so this was like 2 weeks before my doctor told me to lay off dairy, and we had this giant ice cream cake. And so it was so big, and we're like cutting off pizzas, putting them in the freezer, saving it, and having it later and stuff like that, because there was a lot of ice cream cake left over. And so I was pretty sure when we got back to the doctor's, my doctor was gonna be like, have you been laying off dairy like at all? Do you have an ice cream cake back at your house? And I was gonna be like, no, I don't have an ice cream cake back at my house. I have half an ice cream cake back at my house. Another time, I'm on my way home. I was picking up some dinner for us because my wife didn't have time to cook, and then I had to stop and get some medication on the way home before I got home. So I was kind of like trying to do all my chores on the way home. And I was standing in line to pick up my medication, holding a bag of McDonald's. And I was just standing in line thinking, kind of ironic. I'm standing in line waiting for my medication while holding a bag of McDonald's. So it helps to know I'm not the only one that has these weird health things. At one point, my wife was telling me, so she felt some wetness in her underwear. And she was worried. She's like, oh no, did my period start? That she wanted to go get pads or something like that. And so she went to the bathroom and checked, and she was like, thank goodness, I just peed my pants a little bit. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh, geez, if you're thankful that all you did was pee your pants unknowingly and unwillingly, is that a good sign? Is that a good thing? I don't know.